Thank you so much for introduction, Reverend John. So I'd like to start sharing, and thank you for having me today. It's very my honor to be here. I'm a little bit nervous, but I'm looking forward to having conversation after my presentation. So as Reverend John introduced, the title of my talk today is The Art of Dying Well. Just embracing impermanence in daily life. Okay, so today the theme is, as you can guess, it's about death, the topic that we often avoid. But I believe that when we face death with honesty and openness, it can illuminate how we want to live, what we truly value, and what we find meaningful. I'd like to invite you first into a gentle reflection. What does it mean to live fully, knowing that death is certain? What does it mean to live fully, that knowing that death is certain? And how can Buddhist teachings, especially in the Jodo Shinshu tradition, support us in facing that truth? So please let me begin with my personal story. So as Reverend John introduced, I was born into a Shin Buddhist temple family in Oita Prefecture, Japan. And this is my grandfather and myself about 50 years ago. I think I'm about 1 year old here. And the only person whose final moment I have ever witnessed with my own eyes is my grandfather. And he was also the one who gently led me towards Buddhism. He set a family rule that every night we would all gather in front of Onaijin, our home altar, and chant sutras together. We usually chanted Sambutsuge, Juseige, and Shoshinge, and followed by Gobunsho. So I remember the sounds very well, but I didn't know what it meant. But through this, he planted the seeds of Buddhism in me. In Japan, when someone passes away, we have a tradition. There is a service called Otsuya. The English translation was wake service. It's held the night before funeral. So it's a service where a family spend night together with someone who passed away. And then the funeral ceremony takes place the next day. And it's followed by cremation. So we move to the crematorium with the coffin. And then after the cremation, the family uses the special chopsticks to carefully place the bones into a white urn. And finally, urn is placed into the family grave. This is our family grave in Oita. It's a very typical family grave in Japan. And this is my son, and these are my nephews and nieces. And here, usually they have family name, but our family grave have Namo Amida Butsu here. And underneath, there is a space for urns. So I went through this process for the first time in my life when my grandfather passed. I remember looking at my grandfather's body as he lay in the coffin at home. It was before the funeral, and I felt this deep, hollow ache in my heart, a kind of emptiness I had never known before. I think I was about 15 years old, or 15 or 16 years old. And at the same time, I found myself thinking, my grandfather's body is right here, but he's not here anymore. What does what does that even mean? And of course, I had no answer, just a question. And that moment stayed with me for a while. And in many ways, it became the beginning of my spiritual path. It was the first time I deeply encountered the end of life. In Jodo Shinshu Buddhism, there is a famous passage called the White Ashes, in Japanese, Hakkotsu no Sho, written by Renyo Shonin. It says, "We may have radiant faces in the morning, but by evening we may turn into white ashes." This passage was read at the funeral of my grandfather and reminded us that death is not far away. It is with us every day. Renyo Shonin's words reminded us of life's preciousness, and yet we live as if we will live forever. And I did, even after the passing of my grandfather. Most of us live our lives avoiding the thought of death. Why? Because it brings fear, anxiety, and uncertainty. But there is the paradox. When we finally do face death, not just intellectually, but with our hearts, we begin to ask deeper questions. What is truly important to me? How do I want to spend the time I have left? Facing death doesn't make us morbid. It makes us real. It allows us to strip away the superficial and pay attention to what actually matters. When we accept that our time is limited, we stop waiting for someday. We begin to live more honestly, more intentionally, more kindly, and more gratefully. In Japan, this conversation is becoming more open. One example is a growing movement called Shūkatsu. The end. Shu means the end, and katsu means activities. So Shūkatsu translates activities for the end of life preparation or end of life planning. Shūkatsu encourages people to take charge of how they want to live their final days by preparing their will, funeral, medical preferences, and so on. The term became widely known after journalist Tetsuo Kaneko made detailed preparation for his own funeral before he passed away. In 2009, the word Shūkatsu appeared in a magazine and took root in public awareness. Now there are even comic books and TV dramas about the end of life planning. One drama, as you can see on the screen, aired on NHK last year, it's called I Want to Die Alone, 一人で死にたい. And it follows a 39-year-old single woman, Narumi, who enjoys living alone until her aunt died a lonely death. She was also a single woman. This makes her start reflecting on her own future. The show explores how Narumi, despite being financially and mentally independent, begin to feel uncertain. She starts to plan her end-of-life care, not only for herself, but also to spare her loved ones confusion or burden. The drama gently shows how facing death can lead to a deeper appreciation of life. In Tokyo Shibuya district, there is an annual death festival. Buddhist priests, including last year it happened in April, in 6 days and 42,000 people participated. And Buddhist priests, including 2 Zen Buddhist priests, doctors, artists, spiritual leaders, drag queens, entrepreneurs, and so on, gave lectures, workshops, talks to explore death without taboo. They call it a festival to rediscover death and rethink how to live well. Also in Tokyo, this is the death festival last year, but next month it's happening again in Shibuya. And also in Tokyo, there is even Shūkatsu snack bar, a cozy bar where people come and talk about aging and dying. Their website says, "We want to talk openly about the future, including old age and death. By thinking about death, we want to reflect on the meaning of life and how we live it." They even offer coffin laying experience, as you can see. So people can reflect on life from inside a coffin. And they say there is no karaoke, but kangoke. Kangoke means coffin. All of these movements share one message. Facing death helps us live more deeply. And I believe it's a message we can all benefit from, regardless of where we live or what we believe. Another powerful reflection comes from hospice nurse Bonnie Ware, who cared for people in their final weeks. She asked them what they regretted most. Here are the top 5 regrets. I wish I had lived a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. 2. I wish I hadn't worked so hard. 3. I wish I had expressed my feelings. 4. I wish I had stayed in touch with friends. 5. I wish I had let myself be happier. These are not just regrets, they are reminders. They invite us to choose consciously, to live with courage, and to make space for joy, connection, and purpose. So, what can we actually do to live our lives fully? Here is a book I'd like to introduce that may answer the question. It is called Die with Zero. Getting All You Can from Your Money and Your Life it's by Bill Perkins. The book's core message is simple and provocative. Instead of trying to accumulate as much money as possible before we die, We should aim to maximize our life experiences, to use our time, money, and energy to live fully. Perkins argues that many people work hard, save diligently, and look forward to retirement, only to realize, often too late, that they've postponed for joy too long. He urges us not to oversave and underlive. He says we need to intentionally spend on things that brings lasting joy while we are still healthy enough to enjoy them. One section struck me deeply. He talks about using life expectancy calculators, sorry. While they aren't perfect, they can give us a general sense of how many years we might have left. And knowing that, even approximately, helps us plan better. He says if you think you'll live to 150, you might save too much and live too little. You'll die with more than zero, and that means you've wasted time, energy, and joy. So I tried two of those calculators. One is called Longevity Illustrator, which gave me 100% chance of living to 65. I'm currently 51, and around 70% chance of reaching 87, the average life expectancy for Japanese women. The other one, called Living 200, asked even more detailed questions about health, habits, and family history, and told me I might live to 95. So this is my result. The results were different, of course, but they made me pause. If I live to 95, that's another 44 years. And it made me reflect. How do I want to live those years? What do I really want to prioritize in my life? What do I want? Where do I want to live? What kind of work do I want to do? What do I really enjoy? What does it mean to live fully to me? These questions became more vivid, more real. That's the power of looking ahead. Even without certainty, a number gives us more clarity. Perkins writes, humans are wired to survive, not to thrive. We avoid the subject of death and act as if it's never coming. But what if we let the thought of death awaken us to life? What if we lived with the mantra he strongly recommends: maximize total life enjoyment? So by now, we might intellectually understand the importance of facing death. And yet, let's be honest, most of us still hesitate to think about our own. Even after all these reflections, I must be honest, I really don't want to think about it. Death still feels scary to me and hard to imagine. In Jodo Shinshu, Amida Buddha made the vow to receive us as Buddhas into the Pure Land, where no suffering exists. So when we die, In this tradition, our death day becomes our birthday in the Pure Land. Therefore, I should not be afraid of dying. But I do not want to go to the Pure Land just yet. In the record of laminant divergences, or Tannisho, a book written by Yuyen or Yuyenbo, a disciple of Shinran Shonin, expressed the same feeling to Shinran Shonin. Yuyenbo told Shinran Shonin, although I say the Nembutsu, the feeling of dancing with joy is faint with me, and I have no thought of wanting to go to the Pure Land quickly. How should it be for a person of Nembutsu? And Shinran Shonin replied, I too have had this question. And the same thought occurred to you, Yuyenbo. He explained that it's natural. It's our bonno, our attachments, and blind passion. But it is precisely we who feel this way that Amida Buddha embraces. Our birth to Pure Land is settled, not because we are pure, but because we are ignorant beings with blind passions. When we face our fear, we are facing ourselves. When we continue to face ourselves, we meet the great compassion and wisdom of Amida Buddha. That is when we are brought to deep relief, realizing we don't have to fix our fear and will be accepted as we are. This deep realization brings us to deep gratitude for Amida Buddha and for our precious life. So let me close by asking you some questions. If you have 7 days left, what would you stop doing? What would you begin? What would you do to live your life fully? You don't have to answer right now, but may the reflection begin. And when fear arises, may we remember Amida Buddha's vow. Come as you are. Let yourself completely rely on the working of Amida. I will liberate you from the suffering. Namo Amida Butsu. Thank you very much.